The future we once read about, the one with brain uploads, AI overlords, and bioengineered bodies, is it coming? It's already here. Welcome, y'all, to the very first episode of Sci-Fi Realities, the podcast where we explore the science that's pushing us toward a future we may or may not survive. I'm Sophia, your semi-reliable host with zero scientific background to be discussing what I'll be discussing. And today we're kicking things off with some breaking news from what I like to call the "we've definitely gone too far" files. We're talking about dire wolves making a comeback, and not the Game of Thrones kind. Actual prehistoric apex predators that went extinct around 12,000 to 13,000 years ago. These guys were massive, about 25% larger than your largest non-extinct wolf. They measured up to 5 feet long, weighed 200 pounds, and about 3.5 feet tall at the shoulders, and a bite that could crush bone. They snacked on anything from bison, horses, and pretty much anything unfortunate enough to cross their path. And they are not alone on the resurrection tour, which very fitting as Easter is right around the corner. Colossal Biosciences, the biotech startup behind this dystopian starter pack, claimed that they brought the direwolf back from extinction. 3 of them, Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi, named after mythical founders of Rome and our beloved Dragon Queen. I guess you can't have direwolves without some connection to Game of Thrones, but we have to acknowledge that Khaleesi did not have direwolves, although she did have the coolest name in the series, in my opinion, but definitely no direwolf. So 2 of the wolves were born or recreated, hatched. I don't know the correct term for this, bio-booted, clone burst, CRISPR crunch into existence. I'm not sure. Pick your sci-fi flavor. But 2 were born late last year and the youngest earlier this year, but they are just now releasing the story. That's quite a secret to keep. I wonder what that NDA looked like for those who are in the know. So now these pups are frolicking in a secure, undisclosed location, and only the likes of George R.R. Martin can have access. He was pictured holding one of the wolves. Fans were unimpressed. George has time for everything but finishing up a Song of Fire and Ice series. Honestly, I no longer care. I'm a fan, but I no longer care. To prep for book 6, I would literally have to reread books 1 through 5 to get up to speed again. And those books really do a number on you. I don't think I have it in me. I'm pretty sure I have PTSD from both series and the show. It's why I never got into House of Dragons. Some might say I'm not a true fan because of that. I don't care. It's intense. So, sorry for the tangent. Back to the puppies. They're really cute, really fluffy. They also weigh about 80 pounds, 3 feet long, and they're projected to be 6 feet long and the same height as their ancestors. I just hope this isn't a pet cemetery type situation and that they understand humans are not food. We're friends. And for that reason, I am relieved that these dire wolves are in a secure area. According to Colossal, the wolves are being kept in an expansive 2,000-acre fenced-in compound and carefully controlling their diet and breeding. That's great news. It makes me wonder, how do you go about advertising for these jobs? For the person who's going to be in charge of guarding this compound. I can imagine the job requisition. Junior wolf wrangler wanted. Must be comfortable with genetically enhanced apex predators. Experience with CRISPR not required, but you will be asked to sign a liability waiver and an NDA. Benefits include hazard pay, complimentary Kevlar, and a weekly therapy stipend. Also, Tom Brady might stop by to pet the wolves. We'll get into that Tom Brady bit in a bit. Sounds like a cool thing, but I'm not sure I would apply for that. Now, to bring you these fluffy history projects with teeth, scientists use ancient DNA from 2 fossil specimens, one 13,000 years old and the other 72,000 years old. That is so old. Oh my God, the fact that they could do this is just wow. They sequenced the genome and used CRISPR to edit the very much not extinct gray wolf embryos with direwolf genes. Now, some people are saying because of this, these direwolves are nothing more than modified gray wolves. But Colossal claims the edits include bone density, jaw structure, and immune adaptations that clearly mark them as their own breed. Essentially a genetic revival rather than a glorified cosplay, as some believe. Now, ethics aside, I can't help but be awed by this. It's really impressive, scary, but impressive. if I knew I could do this kind of stuff with science back in high school, I probably would have paid better attention. I might have been a better student. Who knows? Maybe I would have created a Colossal Biosciences type of startup. But nope, alas, here I am, just a woman with a startup podcast instead and a healthy and realistic fear of bringing back the dead. Whenever I hear about these out there ideas and these startups getting these millions and billions, I always think, why did I not think of that? But for this one, my first thought is, who the heck would think of that? Colossal Biosciences did. They were founded in 2021 and proudly calls itself the world's first de-extinction company. I think it's fair of them to assume no one else is reviving extinct species in their garage. Behind this company is, of course, a man with the money. You always need one of those. And a scientist whom we presume is not mad at the moment, but we know how these movies turn out. Ben Lamb is a serial entrepreneur. If you Google him, you'll see serial entrepreneur all over the place. I think the word serial in front of anything is a bit odd, but that's how they're describing him. He is a serial entrepreneur, and he's also a billionaire. Clearly, the more money you have, the more creative you have to get in how you spend it. I wish I had that problem. Dr. George Church is a Harvard geneticist, Human Genome Project OG, and one of the minds behind CRISPR, or as I like to call it, the cut and paste tool for DNA. If you ever Google him, it's kind of poetic that this guy playing God is literally named Church. He looks like he could be cast as either God or the wise wizard guiding the chosen ones on their quest, or possibly both, maybe at the same time. But these are our main folks behind this project. And naively, I like to imagine that one of them as a kid, maybe Ben the Billionaire since the age tracks, was curled up reading the first Game of Thrones when it dropped in 1996. And when they got to the part where the Stark kids, plus Jon, of course, each found a direwolf pup, he had that sparkly-eyed childhood moment thinking, I wish I had a direwolf. And now he does. And now he does. Decades later, his company has the gene editing tech, his billions in backing, and the audacity to turn that fanfic dream into real life. This is some next level wish fulfillment. 8-year-old me wanted to be invisible, which to be fair is a solid dream, but this is some powerful manifestation energy, and kudos for them. Maybe with some of that driving them or the potential to cash in big. I'm a bit skeptical, so I lean towards the latter, especially considering how much money this company is now worth. A company whose business is resurrecting ancient animals of all things. Like seriously, who thinks of these things? Colossal has raised $435 million in funding and is now valued at over $10 billion. That is a lot of money to bring animals back to life. And the investor list is a who's who of venture capital, tech moguls, and Tom Brady. Tom Brady is on their advisory board because when we think of genetic resurrection, we definitely think retired NFL quarterback. But hey, good for Tom. You got to diversify the portfolio. If I was worth $300 million, I too would be looking at where to park some of that cash. Or maybe it's some good old direwolf revival. So what's next? What do you do after you CRISPR crunched into existence some giant wolves? You go bigger and colder. Before the direwolf, Colossal's focus was on the woolly mammoth, and also the Tasmanian tiger and the dodo. But the mammoth was Colossal's original poster child for de-extinction, hence the name Colossal. And we are definitely long overdue for that mammoth. Their plan for bringing back the mammoth includes editing Asian elephant DNA to include mammoth traits, fur, fat, frost tolerance, and whatever gene makes them look majestic while stomping across frozen wastelands. And these things are majestic, like just beautiful. Every time I see pictures of them, I'm always awed. I also love elephants, so it makes sense that I would be a fan of mammoths. But bringing them back does not make sense, at least to me. The first time I read about Colossal and their mammoth plan, probably was about a year ago. My first question was, like, why? Sometimes you'll read a story of like, oh my God, that's so cool. And you can imagine your possibilities. But for this one, I was like, why? Why would we do this? Why are we sinking so much money into something that doesn't seem to benefit anyone directly, especially the animals. Asian elephants, which would be used as surrogates for mammoth embryos, are endangered. So we're potentially sacrificing a species on the brink to recreate another one that's already gone. Make that make sense. I just can't wrap my head around that. Maybe it's about legacy or the glory or the Nobel Peace Prize and the most outrageous idea brought to light. Or maybe they're building a mammoth army for world domination. I don't know, joking, but the way the world is going, who knows? Anything is possible at this point. Now, the official reasoning from Colossal about why they want to bring back the mammoth is climate change. Apparently, back in the day, or back in the olden days, as my 8-year-old likes to say about anything past 5 years, mammoths helped keep Arctic permafrost frozen by stomping around, knocking over trees, and pooping with purpose. This ecological lawn mowing supposedly kept CO2 trapped underground. So we introduced these mega herbivores to the Arctic, and it helps restore the ecosystem, boost carbon storage, and mitigate climate change, which is really a cool theory. And that probably the type of things you'd be burned as a witch for back in the olden days. But again, we are using an already endangered species, which Colossal does say one of their focus is species on the extinction list and how to prevent that. Also, each elephant carrying a mammoth baby can grow babies of its own, which will further affect population size. The alternative would be to implant embryos into artificial wombs, but those have yet to be fully developed. Vincent Lynch, an evolutionary biologist and associate professor at the University at Buffalo, was quoted in an August 2024 Life Science article. Quote, "There would be hundreds or thousands of artificial uteruses in a warehouse somewhere, churning out genetically engineered mammoths," Lynch said. This is like 1984 scary stuff. End quote. If that's not dystopian, I don't know what else is. Okay. And how many mammoths does it take to help fix climate change? It sounds like a setup for a joke, but it's not. I'm really curious. Do we need a dozen, 100, a full Lord of the Rings elephant charge? And what if they do adapt like too well? Invasive species are one thing. Invasive prehistoric tanks are another. That's a problem I don't even want to imagine. But the way the world is going, I'm going to keep it on my 2028 bingo card, which is the projection of when the mammoth will be revived. I get trying to find alternative ways to deal with climate change, depending on who you talk to. Climate change might be natural or it might be man-made. I think it's a mix of both. And when I say mix, I mean an uneven mix with humans accounting for the bulk of it. And let's be real, with all those billions, couldn't we invest in literally any of the other proven ways to fight climate change? And there's a list of that. I guess reforestation is too boring, but a live action Ice Age sequel with real mammoths definitely gets the investors lining up. In that same Life Science article I just referenced earlier, Adam Searle, I hope I'm saying his name correctly, that's Searle. He's a research fellow in cultural, historical, and environmental geography at the University of Nottingham in the UK. He said, quote, "De-extinction is unlikely to contribute to solving the ecological crisis. It's literally a pet project for billionaires." End quote. He said it. I didn't, but we are all probably thinking it. The mammoths are still a few years away. Colossal gave 2028 as the date. The years keep getting pushed back, but currently that's where it stands. But Colossal isn't wasting any time. They already created a mammoth mouse by editing 7 genes into a lab mouse. Now it has thick, curly fur and can handle cold better. Basically, it's a rat in a snow parka. It's kind of adorable and it's kind of terrifying. We all know terrifying things come in cute packages. We learned that from Gremlins. And I also think about how fast mice and rats breed. Imagine if one of these bio-booted or CRISPR-crunched mice slipped out of a lab and got busy. We're looking at a potential avalanche of these designer rodents. And who knows what that could mean for the planet. And we all know escape scenarios do happen more frequently than we like to imagine. Just last year, on November 2024, 43 monkeys used in medical research escaped from the Alpha Genesis Primate Research Center in South Carolina. Apparently, a caretaker forgot to lock the door, which is classic. That's how these things happen. All 43 were eventually recaptured. Some were caught using humane traps, and others were lured back with food like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and something called monkey biscuits. Now imagine that same scenario, but with mammoth mice, except they're smaller, they're faster, and they're way harder to find and probably immune to peanut butter traps. And if they start breeding with you, let's say your average Subway mouse, like, oh my God, I cannot imagine that Pixar meets apocalypse situation. I just can't. If the world were to end, I don't want it to be because we were overtaken by mammoth mice. But let's move on from these apocalypse mice. Other animals on Colossal's magical resurrection menu include the Tasmanian tiger, also known as the thylacine, and the dodo, which was a flightless bird that just had very poor survival instinct. I mean, that's what they say. The thylacine was hunted into extinction back in the early 1900s. As farmers encroached further and further onto their habitat, thylacine now had access to easier prey, so farmers reacted accordingly. Kill until there's eventually nothing left. Dingoes are facing similar threats. Maybe we fix that before printing more ghost dogs. The dodo was found by Dutch soldiers around 1600 and went extinct 80 years after that. Wow. These birds were around for maybe 200,000 years, and humans wiped them out in 80 years. Like 80 years. That has to be a record. And the reasons include deforestation, hunting, and destruction of their nest by animals brought to the island by the Dutch. And I'm sure being flightless did not help the situation. Those poor birds. You know what? Maybe we do owe the dodo a bio reboot, but would they want to come back? I personally wouldn't. Before I spiral too far, it is worth noting that according to Colossal, this is not just about resurrecting the past. Part of their mission includes using the same gene editing tools to help endangered species before they go extinct. Think preventive conservation, but with super cutting edge biotech. They've stated that the tech developed for de-extinction can be applied to preserving genetic diversity and building resilience in the threatened animal population. And to prove that point, they've cloned endangered red wolves from an article in the Houston Chronicle dated April 11th. Colossal Biosciences said it welcomed 2 litters of cloned red wolves using the non-invasive blood cloning. I have no idea what that is, but I don't know how normal cloning is done, but it seems like this one is safer than how we normally do it. So, which is good, I guess. So yes, while they are busy rebooting the Ice Age, they also say they want to keep today's animals off tomorrow's extinction list. And look, I get it. If we can bring back animals, maybe we can save species teetering on extinction. But we still haven't figured out how to stop extinctions in the first place. No, I take that back. We have figured it out. We just don't have the will. And it probably costs less to fix the cause than whatever it is that Colossal is doing. But then you don't have a startup with the potential to go public and make a lot of people more money, which is what it comes down to. Again, that's the skeptic in me. Now, we bring back the Tasmanian tiger. How do we ensure it does not face the same fate as its predecessors? For the dodo and woolly mammoth, can it survive in modern ecosystems? And when we talk about why animals face extinction, it's due to a variety of factors: habitat loss, climate change, pollution, overexploitation, and the introduction of non-native species. Colossal does say it's also investing in all of that as part of its conservation efforts. So they're looking at the system as a whole. So it is looking at habitat loss. It is looking at pollution. It is looking at all of those. But rebooting extinct species probably counts as introducing non-native species. So like we discussed about the Asian elephants being surrogates, we are creating a problem as we try to fix another. You have to wonder, why are we doing this? Are we doing this really for the planet, or maybe for the thrill, or maybe for someone to be the first to tweet a picture of a baby mammoth? And of course, everyone will turn around and say fake news. Who knows? Maybe, but you know what? I'll take them at their word. They're trying to solve a problem and make a lot of money by doing so. If we're talking about bringing back something that died so long ago, by using DNA and CRISPR and super cool tech that we have, how long before someone pitches a human resurrection? Not cloning, but like full on, let's bring back, I don't know, insert any maniac from history. There's a startup out there discreetly floating this idea around right now. And I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat for a bit. I'll do that from time to time. I think the real conspiracy is that people with very deep pockets are already looking into ways to live forever, whether it's, how to revive the brain, how to upload the brain or full body transplants. Some of the research coming out of places like ARPA-H, Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health, and private labs sounds less like medicine and more like the plot of Altered Carbon meets Frankenstein 2.0. Only time will tell, and I don't think we'll have to wait long to see where this goes. My tinfoil hat is off. But I will also add that this is usually the prequel or the background story to every good dystopia movie or book or video game. There's usually a company behind it chasing record profits at the expense of humanity. You had Vault-Tec and Fallout, you had Weyland-Yutani and Alien, Cyberdyne and Terminator. Colossal might just be our real-life prequel. And look, the ethics behind this are still very gray. I'm not entirely sold on the idea that this is the best path to conservation. I mean, it's flashy, it's headline grabbing, but is it actually helpful to the animals or to the environment? That said, I'm also blown away by what science and technology can do. We're in an era where the same technology being used to bring back extinct species could also be used to heal, to cure, to preserve life in meaningful ways. There are teams out there working on tech to repair damaged organs with bioprinting, treat rare diseases using personalized gene therapy, even slow aging or restore neural function with brain computer interfaces. So, my hope, or my plea really, I hope we get more startups and researchers creating things that are truly for humankind, not for clout, not for $1 billion exits, not for an IPO, but for people. And I hope those solutions don't get bought up, marked up, and locked behind a paywall only accessible to some. And that's all I have for you all today. Thanks for joining me on my very first episode of Sci-Fi Realities. If you want a taste of what else we'll be digging into, think brain chips, lab-grown organs, and science that makes you double-check your reality, make sure to check out the trailer. And if you're equally fascinated and mildly terrified, hit subscribe, share it with a few brave friends, and come back next time as we dive into the next bizarre frontier. Until then, stay curious, stay cautious, and remember, the future is definitely stranger than fiction.